Okay, I'm going to demo the game of Deluxe Waffle, and this game comes out only once a week. There is a daily version that is at wafflegame.net, and the deluxe version gets unlocked every Monday, and it's a little bit more complicated with the normal version. It's only a 5 by 5 grid of, looks like it's 3, 6, 7 words, 6 words. And you have to scramble letters to make words. When a letter isn't colored in green, it's in the correct position, the correct slot. If a letter is colored yellow, it's not in the correct position, and you have to move it to turn it to green to move it to a correct spot. And it's a tricky game. The Deluxe Waffle is a little bit more complicated because there's more words, and it's actually a 7 by 7 grid with 4 words across and 4 words down that all intersect. So you have to look at the letters that are in green and realize those are in the right spot, and look at the letters in yellow and rearrange them to make words that all fit. So this is Deluxe Waffle number 189. And I'm going to start moving some letters around here. What you can do is try to guess what the words are. It's a little bit like a crossword puzzle. Try to move the R there. The R there works. And I'm going to guess this is probably the word therapy. So I'm going to look for the P. There's a P here. I can swap that with the E. And I can look for the H and swap that. Okay, then we have another word going down, another word going across, another word going across here. And what I try to do is I try to solve those words in the middle, these 4 words in the middle, the one going down here, 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 and here. I try to solve those first because usually there's a few green letters in those areas. So this word probably right here is probably armrest. All right, so I'm going to look for an R. Now there's 2 R's, and you have to swap the R with the E, but which one do I want to swap? Probably not this one because the E would not go here. I probably want to select this R to swap with. So I'll swap this R with the E. Okay, then I have arm, R-E-S-T. I have 2 S's. Where does it make sense to swap? Well, there's already an A here in the wrong position, and this A would either go here or here. If I do the swap with the S here, then I would have an A down here. If I swap with this S here, I have an A here, and then I would know the position of the A because it's either going to be green here or green down here. So I'm going to swap this S here for armrest, and that A turned yellow. Remember, the A here was yellow, so that means the A has to be at the bottom here. So I'm going to move this A down to there, and that matches. And this word here I'm going to guess is probably dormant. So I'm going to look for an N. Move the N over there. I'll move an O over here. Probably doesn't matter which one. I'll try this one here. Okay, so I have dormant, therapy, armrest. And this one here. It's a good idea to look at the gray letters, because the gray letters most likely will fit here. Not these 2, but these over here. And these letters that are in yellow can be rearranged here along the edges to make words here. So I'm going to guess this is probably the word immoral. Move the M here, move the O here. Starting to fall into place more. I have 15 swaps remaining. I started with 25. Let's see if I can solve it. A lot of times a word will end in an ER, so I could swap these 2 and maybe get lucky and get 1 or 2 of those to fit in. So let's try that. Swap the E and the R. That worked. You have to think very carefully here. This D is definitely in the word. The D has to be either after the Y or at the end. I think it's more likely that the D is at the end, because you don't often have a Y followed by a D, so this D probably is going to fit at the end here. So I'm going to swap the D with the E. Now if the E stays yellow, that means the E could be here, but if the E turns gray, the E is probably going to be in this word up, this vertical word here. So I'm going to swap these two. The E is still yellow, which means it has to fall right there where the S is. But the S is going to stay gray, obviously, so I'm going to move these two here. Okay. And that's probably the word relayed. So I'll take the A, move it down. The S, I got lucky there. The S fits. Okay, when you see a T and a space and a D, chances are it's an E. So I'm going to take the E and swap it with the O. And that worked. Okay. And this could be, the O could be here, or the A could be here. I could try putting the A down here. That seemed to work okay. Now I have an O and an R. Now the O could be part of this word on the top, or it could be part of this word here. But if I swap them, it makes the word rotated. So let's try that. That should work. That's the right word. Now, these yellow letters, the B and the L we know is in the top word. But we know a consonant will never fit here. But this E, which is not part of this word, has to fit here somewhere. So what I think it is I think the word is blister, B-L-I-S-T-E-R. Okay, and if that's blister, then the word down here would be bladder. So what I could do is I could swap the D and the L, then I could swap the B and the L to get the first two letters of blister, and then I could do one more swap to do the L and the E, and there it is, right there. And I have 5 swaps remaining. I did solve it in 20 swaps, which is, I think, the best you can do on the deluxe waffle version. I don't do this too often. Usually I get 2 or 3 swaps remaining, sometimes 4, and every now and then I can do it in 20 swaps to have 5 swaps remaining. And then when you solve it, it turns all different colors, and then you have, tells you the definitions of all these words. And then you have the share button, which you can use to share it with friends. And then this menu up here shows the different versions. You have a daily waffle, a deluxe waffle, and there's a bunch of others here. I also play a game called Stack Down. There's a few new ones I haven't tried yet. This one word search, I haven't tried this yet, but I think I'll try that. These games are challenging. They're good for the mind, and they're fun to play. And this is the game of Waffle Deluxe, which comes out once a week, a new edition once a week, and the waffle game is every day. And the URL, the address is wafflegame.net.